If you're looking to buy a detached house from 1 million to 1.5 million in the suburbs of Vancouver, especially Surrey, Delta, Langley, this is a detailed, comprehensive guide for everything that you need to know before making the purchase. So we'll start with things to keep in mind when buying the house. So of course, location is the main, then lot size is the second most important thing, then lot shape. So the bigger, the wider the frontage, the more expensive it usually is. And of course, you have to look at if the lot has any development potential. Of course, we'll talk about everything in detail pretty soon now. You have to look for any easements or right of ways on the lot. You have to see if it is in a peat bog. So this is Vancouver, the city of Vancouver specific. There's no peat bog in Surrey Langley. It's just the city of Surrey, city of Vancouver. The house should not be on a T intersection. This is when two roads intersect and the house is literally facing a road instead of another house. This is not considered good in a lot of cultures, especially in South Asia. The house should not be close to power lines. It could be near a creek, but creeks sometimes cause issues with future development. So if possible, try to stay away from creeks. The lot should not have any big trees. Again, it depends. If the trees are very close to the middle of the lot, then it usually is okay, because in the future redevelopment, if the tree comes within the foundation or the footprint of the house or the multifamily, whatever you're building in the future, the tree will most likely be gone. Again, depends. Some trees are protected, so you'd have to talk to an arborist. But if possible, try to get a lot without any big trees if you're building in the future. And then of course the grade or the slope. So the flatter a lot is, the more valuable it is, just because people generally don't like lots which have a lot of slope. And of course, then the house age. So in especially Surrey, Vancouver, or Surrey, Langley, Delta, even Abbotsford, Mission, Maple Ridge, houses pretty much started building in the 1950s, 60s, and then 70s is when there was pretty much a construction boom. There were a lot of houses being built in the 70s, and then some 80s, 90s, of course, and the 2000s. And of course, this is the basic number of bed, bath, kitchens. Of course, if the house, there's two identical houses, one of them has 2 kitchens, which means it has a mortgage helper. Most likely could be authorized, could be unauthorized, but the one with the 2 kitchens will of course be a lot more, usually anywhere from 50,000 to like 100k, 150k more. Of course, the house size, so square feet of the house, if anything, is more important than number of bed, bath, because sometimes I've seen a 2,400 square foot house only have 2 bedrooms, because the other 2-3 bedrooms are technically they're referred as flex space or office or den, but they're big enough to be used as a bedroom. So the house size is more important when you're searching for a house than just number of bedrooms, bathrooms. Okay, of course, you're built the same as house age. Renovations, of course, if it's an old house, doesn't matter. If it's completely renovated, it could be worth very similar to the newer houses. We'll talk about again everything in detail now. Okay, so these are some of the houses I've handpicked. These have sold in the last 2-3 months, so they're not on the market anymore, but we can talk about it. This is public data. Okay, let's start with probably one of the cheapest sales. So there's pretty much nothing from 1 million to like 1.1. There's some, but those are pretty much not really usable houses, very old, very small lots, in a very bad, shitty neighborhood. So if you want a simple, normal starter home, 1.1 is pretty much the basic sort of the starting point in Surrey. Of course, in Abbotsford, there's even 800, 900k, Chilliwack, even 600, 700k. But in Surrey, Langley, Delta, 1.1 is pretty much your starting price. So what do you get for a 1.1? Typically, a very tiny lot, a small house, in an area could be okay. The area doesn't really matter as much for now. For 1.1, this is the paragon. The most important things to take a look at is, of course, the lot size is again the most important. Then the year build, of course, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and the size of the house. So this one is 1980s built, which is okay, very not super old, but it's cheap because of the lot size. 4,500 square feet might be considered pretty decent, if anything, really a nice size lot in the city of Vancouver. But anywhere in the suburbs, 44,000, 4,500 is like very basic, like the starter level lot. So this is why it sold for 1.1. Of course, you can look at inside the house really quickly. So nice normal house, no complaints. Nice normal flooring, no old wooden fireplace. Kitchen, of course, needs a complete renovation. So, of course, just a basic house. Nothing, we don't have to talk about like specific houses. This is just a basic overall guide of what to look for when you're buying the house. And before we continue with all the 27 options, we'll quickly take a look at location, because location is one of the most important things after the lot size as well. So, of course, this is all the sub areas in Surrey, Langley, and then South Surrey, then Delta. There's no one right answer for what's the best neighborhood. Everyone pretty much likes the neighborhood that they live in. There's some cheaper, less expensive neighborhoods, and then there's more expensive that people usually pay a premium for. That we can talk about. So let's say Panorama Ridge is probably one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Surrey. Of course, South Surrey is more expensive, but let's say just the regular part of the main Surrey. Panorama is one of the most expensive, of course, south of Highway 10. And then Fraser Heights is also really expensive, probably just because it's newer houses. And then Fleetwood used to be pretty much the most desirable, one of the most desirable neighborhoods for all families, because it's very diverse, it's very culturally diverse, and a lot of people from a lot of immigrants are here, a lot of Canadians are here, so it's very nice mix of all nicer people living in harmony. And of course, the SkyTrain station is coming, so the area is booming, it's redeveloping. A lot of people who are living in Fleetwood, especially older generations, baby boomers, they're not a big fan of development, which is okay. It's, when I get old, I would probably want the same. I wouldn't want to live in a changing neighborhood, but it is what it is. The SkyTrain's coming, and there will be a lot of high-rises, mid-rises, and townhouse developments in Fleetwood now. Bear Creek Park, so all these four, so West Newton, East Newton, Bear Creek, Queen Mary Park, even Cedar Hills, these are decent areas, not too bad, not too good, just nice, decent neighborhoods where I would personally love to live, because they're not super expensive, but also not like cheap, and like nice neighborhoods. And so Annabelle, Scottsdale is very similar. Typically the south you go, the more expensive it gets, except Fraser Heights, I'd say that's an exception. So Boulevard Heights is one of the cheaper sites. Bridgeview is the cheapest. Of course, most people know this is cheaper than majority of Surrey, just because it's in floodplain, because of the Fraser River. This is very close to the sea level. This part is in floodplain, but Royal Heights, some people confuse it with Bridgeview. This is not in floodplain. Well, majority of it is not, especially near there's River Road, and this part is not in floodplain. Hey, Guildford is really nice, expensive. Again, very similar price point wise, all these neighborhoods. Then Panorama is expensive. Sunshine Hills is pretty much similar to Panorama Ridge, really expensive. Even like standard houses, there could be like $1.7 million. Like I'm talking about older houses, of course. And Noddle is on cheaper end. So this neighborhood, especially near Sun God Rec, this is really expensive. If anything, it's getting closer to Sunshine Hills prices. But everything northwest of Noddle Way, this is okay, because it's very hilly area, and it's very there's a lot of creeks. It's very old, and there hasn't been a lot of redevelopment in this neighborhood, so it's not really that desirable compared to closer to, let's say, Scott Road. Of course, this is really nice, and this is nice. And then, of course, West Newton, near KPU, this is pretty much very Punjabi community centric. And of course, there's a lot of Punjabis everywhere, but this is pretty much their prime spot, because there's a couple gurdwaras here. And then Port Kels is where all the acreages are, and there's a lot of these lots are also on septic, so that's also something to consider, because if it's on septic, then you can't really redevelop it into a townhouse, let's say, zoning, but you could also apply to the city, and hopefully their city will have their services nearby, and then you could get the septic out and have the sewer systems installed to your lot. Okay, and then Cloverdale, of course, the west you go in Cloverdale, the more expensive it gets. This is a beautiful neighborhood, and downtown Cloverdale has had a bad rep in the past. And Clayton is nice, beautiful. It's just very congested, very small lots, like 2,000-3,000 square foot lots, but a nice neighborhood, no complaints. Willoughby is getting the same. It's just very dense. It's new, so it's nice. There's no one really has anything bad to say other than the traffic, other than how dense it is. But it's a nice neighborhood to live in. Everywhere it's dense. It doesn't really matter nowadays. And of course, this is all nice. There's no complaint. No one ever complains about White Rock. Morgan Creek is probably one of the better neighborhoods of specifically if you're just looking at White or South Surrey. Then Crescent Beach is also really nice. Okay, that's a quick overview of just the mapping of sub areas of Surrey and Delta and Langley. And let's look at the houses now. So again, the cheaper houses starting from 1.1, small lot, 4,500 square feet, and house age doesn't really matter for now. It's small lot. It could be newer. It's cheap. Okay, we'll quickly try to make it as quick as possible. So for around 1.1, 1.15, you could either get slightly. So let's define standard. Standard in Vancouver is 33 by 122, 4026 square feet lot. In Surrey, it's 60 by 120, which is 7,200 square feet. So a 7,000 to 7,400 square feet is a standard lot size in anywhere in Surrey. Even Delta is like 6,000 to 6,600. Langley could be anywhere from 7,000 to like 10,000, depending on the exact sub area. But Surrey, 7,000 is the standard. So for around 1.15, you could either get a standard size lot anywhere in an okayish neighborhood, like let's say Boulevard Heights. You can't get a 1.15 standard lot in like a nicer neighborhood, or even a medium neighborhood. Let's say Fleetwood, Newton. They pretty much start from like 1.2, 1.25, the minimum, the cheaper ones. So for 1.125, 1.15, again, standard lot, older house, or even renter, or you could get a newer house like this, especially 2001 built, nice 4-bedroom, 3.5 bathrooms, 2,200 square feet, very decent, not too big, not too small. Of course, it's cheap because of the lot size. It's 2,300 square feet. It's kind of like a townhouse feel, but just there's no shared walls and there's no strata fees. So a lot of people who are jumping from condos and they don't want strata fees anymore, or jumping from a smaller townhouse, they usually prefer something like this because it's not too expensive, but it's also not too old that everything's like falling apart. And this is nice for young people who are not, especially who are not handy, who want peace of mind, and who want to live in a similar, like, again, it won't be brand new at this price point, but still it will be really nice. Because if you take a look, really nice flooring, really nice paint, really nice ceiling height, very bright. Again, we don't need to talk about like specifics of any specific house. Again, we just need to take a quick look. Very nice, no complaints. I would live here all my life. I don't think I would complain. Really nice kitchen, stainless steel appliances. Looks like it probably was updated at some point. And yeah, again, nice house. But of course, the main reason it's cheap, of course, would be this. So lot size pretty much ends where it starts. There's not really any backyard, kind of like a townhouse. Again, there's some backyard, better than nothing, better than a condo, but it's very small in size. And of course, the cheaper ones usually don't have an access to the outside from the basement. So you can't really make a legal or even an unauthorized basement suite in the houses which don't have an access or a separate entrance to the basement. Some people try to literally excavate the backyard. They usually make literally a separate access, entrance themselves, but that's usually unauthorized. City usually doesn't really give permission. So people are doing it. You shouldn't really do it. It's too risky. It's illegal. Try to avoid illegal stuff. Okay, and this is very similar sized lot, slightly bigger, 5 bedrooms, 90s build, so it's like 5 years older, but kind of similar price, like 25,000 more, and does not have a like a suite. So again, very similar, same house. Again, you could get a nice house, very nice, respectable house for 1.15, but again, the lot size will not be big. Do not assume that you'll get a 7,000 square foot lot and a 25-year-old house for 1.15. That just doesn't really exist. That is very unrealistic to think that way. So again, either a smaller lot, 2,000, 2,500, with the newer house size is very similar, like for even the bigger houses, the bigger lots, but it's just smaller lot versus bigger lot, newer house versus older house. That's what you have to make your mind what you want, because there's no right or wrong answer. Usually, technically, financially, the bigger lots are better for, let's say, long run, let's say 10 years from now. Of course, if you hold on to a 7,000 square foot lot, you will most likely be ahead, rather had you bought a smaller lot but a newer house. But your life standard will be a lot better because you're living in a newer house. So there's pros and cons to both. It's totally up to you if you want to make more money, buy a bigger lot, older house. But can you live in it? That's the $1 million question. That's up to you, totally your call. Okay, so this is a typical, again, similar price, just 25,000 more. Older, it's literally 65-year-old house, but a bigger standard 75, 90 square foot lot, 66 foot frontage. This is also something to keep in mind. The smaller the frontage, the cheaper it usually is. The house doesn't really matter. It's 1,200 square feet. It's just a rancher, 3-bed, 1-bath. Whoever bought it didn't really buy it for the house. Most likely, again, we don't really know. But it's mostly because of the lot. It's a nice house, very, again, charming, respectable. But it's perfect, flat lot, no complaints. There are barely any big trees. But it's cheap. It's a little too cheap. The reason it's cheap is because of the zoning. Zoning is also one of the, I'd say it's like at the top, pretty much, after like the lot size. CD zoning, historically at least, you were allowed to build like a tiny house compared to like any other, like a standard RF zoning lot in Surrey, or like an RS1 or RD3 zoning in Delta. CD, you were only allowed to build pretty much like 2,500 square feet plus the garage. In anywhere else, like 3,600, 5,500, depending on, there's some variables. But historically, it's been very tight for what you could build. So that's why it was selling for so cheap. But nowadays, with the new SSMUH multi-family zoning, it depends. You'd have to check with the city. Most likely, they will not allow you to build a fourplex. Even if they do, the size is a little bit too small. But the city could allow you to pretty much get rid of the CD zoning, the restrictive zoning. But again, depends. Covenants do take precedence over the new zoning bylaws, but again, depends on each city. We'll see what happens. But for now, CD zoning has been bad. Try to avoid if you're thinking about developing in the future. Okay, so this is where the standard starts from. So 1.2 is pretty much where you could get like a typical 7,000 or 8. This is closer to 8,000 if anything. Like a standard, well, it's mixed up for some reason. This should be frontage, so 60 and then 133. Standard RF zoning, again, there's no RF zoning anymore. This is R3 now. The bylaws have changed, but it's very similar. You can still build a duplex, or if it has a back lane, then a fourplex. So again, the house doesn't really matter. It's 1,200 square feet. It's, again, most likely a developer bought it. Very flat, nice lot. Again, house, whatever. Just, it's an old house. I mean, you can live in it. You could rent it out, or you could renovate and then live or rent or flip. But most likely, whoever is buying houses like these, like smaller houses but on bigger lots, is a developer trying to, develop it into either a single family, especially with the laneway nowadays, or a duplex with 2 suites, or a duplex with 2 garden suites, or again a fourplex, the actual houseplex. But again, you need a back lane, or it has to be a corner lot to make a houseplex. Okay, and just a quick look at the lot. Okay, this is perfect rectangular lot, barely any trees, perfect lot, just amazing buy at 1.2. Okay, so this is same price 1.2 as the one we just saw, but this is a 2-story house. This is 2160. The other one was just a rancher. So These are types of houses which you could buy to redevelop, but your time frame for redevelopment is not like this year. It might be like 2 years, might be 3 years, and depending, right? So you could still live in this house, you could still rent it out. This is actually not that bad. Looks like it's slightly renovated, the flooring, some paint job, and let's see if the kitchen, yeah, kitchen has also been redone. So this is perfect for someone who has some money right now and who's expecting more money in the future, let's say a few years, or not even expecting, you just have money right now to buy, just buy, but you don't have more money to redevelop right now. So these types of houses are pretty good to hold, and then because it's a pretty big lot, it's not a tiny lot, more than standard, and the house, again, the year doesn't really matter as much for now, as long as the lot size is big enough. Okay, and this one does have an unauthorized suite. Again, city of Surrey, it's not as strict as other cities. A lot of, pretty much like every second house has an unauthorized suite. As long as there's a suite, it's really nice to hold. But of course, it's cheap. It's 1.2. This is one of the cheapest houses with a suite and a standard lot. And the reason it's cheap is the location. Again, as you remember, then the more north you go, the cheaper it usually gets. So this is like as north as it pretty much gets, right? But again, this doesn't mean it's a bad neighborhood, anything wrong with the neighborhood. It's just cheaper compared to the south part, just because it's a hilly location, and it's just historically never really seen a lot of redevelopment. A lot of it's still older 60s, 50s houses. Okay, and then it's okay. So standard, again, little over standard lot. 70s typical BC box, 2,000 square feet, perfect. This is the standard. You can get it for around 1.2 ish. This is on the lower end. The reason I'll show you quickly. So the house wise, again, normal flat lot, no complaints, just some trees, which is okay. Okay, again, normal house, no, just very livable, clean. Probably was updated at some point, like a couple decades ago, probably. Very nice normal house. Okay, the reason it's on the cheaper end is this. Okay, so these are power lines. I don't know if you can see. This is the actual power line pole. This is very close to power lines. So this is why it's on the cheaper end. It's sold on the cheaper end because usually they sell for like 1.25 to 1.3 and even more, but it's sold for a little lower because of the power lines. So again, everything, it depends. There's no one straight answer. Some people just give us they say my house is this much bedrooms, this and bathrooms, the size, the lot size, how much is it worth? It could be worth anywhere from, depends. They could be 100K or even the 200K range, depending on some variables. Here to pretty much give us the exact address to know the exact price, and then tell us the renovations, and then we have to walk through the house and then give you pretty much narrow down the range. Okay, and this is a typical slightly smaller than the standard, because for Cloverhill, sorry, the standard is 7,000, but 6,000 is still very respectable, very like a normal, nice. It's not considered small, it's just an average lot size. Sold for 1.23. Why did it sell for a little cheaper than the average, let's say 1.4 million dollar house? Sold for cheap because of this. So 4 level split. So a typical BC box, especially let's say the one we just saw, this is 2-story, there's basement and there's 1 stairs going up, and you live upstairs, you rent out the basement. But this is literally split in 4 levels, and very tiny levels of, so if you see here, 510, 565, 400, 500 square feet. So very tiny levels of 4 different portions. Of course, they're not, there's no separate entrances to all levels. So, you can't really rent out separately, but you'd have to live with a lot of like 3-4 steps pretty much everywhere. So, if you can see some stairs here. So there's, again, a lot of stairs. So just, try to avoid the houses which have so many stairs. But if you get it at a good price like this, then it's perfect, because again, you can hold on to the lot, which is a decent sized lot, especially with a 66-foot frontage. And then, okay, so this is a typical, again, 7,200 square foot lot, perfect flat lot, no complaints, perfect. The house, again, it's old, whatever, it doesn't really matter. as long as the lot is flat, rectangular, and this is a perfectly regular price. So 1.24, this is the usual price for like a typical Boulevard Heights a standard lot. Okay, and this one sold for 1.25. This is where things start to getting a little more interesting. It's not they're not basic, there could be some sort of a bonus. So this one, again, the house looks okay. It's just like older, 65-year-old, nothing too exciting, but it sold for a decent price because of this thing. So a detached double garage. A lot of houses, especially on 111A, they have a detached double garage. Some people have converted this into a rental suite by literally pulling your plumbing pipes, your electrical here. It's totally unauthorized. You're not allowed to do it. Don't do it. But people have done it in the past, and they're renting out these for like $2,000 a month. This is also why they sell for a little more. Usually this should be like 1.2, but because of the garage, it's selling for 1.5. There is no suite here in this specific house, but some people have a suite. Okay, so for so we're getting closer to 1.3. What can you get? Again, smaller, tiny lot, 2,400 square feet, but a respectable newer house, 2007, still literally under 20 years old. 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, perfect. 2187, not too big, not too small, but it does have a suite. So again, if you want a newer house with a suite, 1.28-ish is the starting price for newer house with a smaller lot in like a nicer, normal Sullivan Heights, East Newton neighborhood. Okay, so the sold for almost 1.3. Again, standard 1970s BC box at 2 stories, rentable basement suite, basement entry, could have a second kitchen, could not, doesn't matter. You can always make one. And again, the house doesn't matter, whatever, like old normal house, some people could even tear this down and make a new like a bigger 3-story house or a duplex here. Lot size perfect. But this is, again, depending on clever it is very expensive. It's sold on the cheaper end. Because of the lot shape. Again, this is not very desirable. The more rectangular it is, the more desirable it is. Of course, this one also had the very the frontage is like 20-30 feet. So it's parking is an issue for lots which don't have a rectangular flat 60-foot frontage. So again, nothing wrong with the house. It's not a bad buy or anything. It's just you should not pay the same price for a flat rectangular lot compared to, let's say, a pie-shaped lot. It should always be cheaper. This is on the cheaper end. It's perfect. So 1.3 is where actual homes start. So this is a 1980s built house. So the ones we just saw, 70s BC boxes, those are typical. Sorry, it's full of typical 70s built houses. 1980s built houses, typical. The double garages pretty much starts in 1980s houses. This is when people usually upgrade from, let's say, a condo they've lived in for many years, or even a townhouse, or even like a detached 70s, like a BC box. This is what they upgrade to, because this is a nice home. This is not a house. It's actually where we can actually call the house a home, because the 70s houses are just like typical houses. They're people just usually rent them out, and a lot of people actually want to live in houses like these. Okay, perfect. Like, look at the lot coverage, and it's just beautiful house. And perfect lot, a rectangular corner lot. Okay, and perfect huge ceiling height, usually vaulted in vaulted in the 1980s houses, very bright. So again, this is where you start. So 1.3 standard lot, nicer neighborhood, 80s built house, but of course these houses don't have a basement suite. So typical 2100 square feet, most likely, again, this is a 2-story house. This is not a basement entry house, but if you want the basement entry, they usually, again, 1.35, 1.4. But if you want the 80s built, if it's just you, your family, you don't want to live with the other people or tenants, 1.3 is a good starting price for a nice family home. Or similar price, 1.3, 1.32, doesn't matter. Same lot, kind of the same neighborhood, well, not the same neighborhood, the same premium neighborhood, let's say Scottsdale and the west of Cloverdale. Nicer, both nice, respectable neighborhoods. This one is 70s built, slightly smaller, but why would this sell for, if anything, more than the 80s built house? Well, the reason is the interior renovations. So it's even outside looks renovated. The siding could be painted or new. Nice white plank flooring. Looks like the windows are double pane, newer updated version. Is crown molding. Looks really nice. Pretty much everything's updated. The fireplace is original, but doesn't matter. Not the big deal. Kitchen perfect. White kitchen. Stainless steel appliances. Ample cabinets. Lighting fixture has been changed. No complaints. Again, this is a perfect house. Perfect, nice modern looking house. Of course, the house is older, it's 70s, but it's also on the cheaper end of what the city of Surrey has, right? So nice, everything, nice, perfect. So the 70s building, and everything's updated, right? So the 70s built houses is where the bedrooms are actually very okay size, like 10 by 12, 10 by 11, 11 by 11. 80s is where the nice, normal, like actual livable bedrooms start from, like the 12 by 12 or 12 by 14, or the actual nicer master bedrooms. That's where the 80s built houses are, I personally is pretty much my favorite. Okay, again, same 7,300 square feet a lot, same 70s built house, same around 2,000 square feet, has a basement suite, sold for more than the 80s built house, again, probably because of the renovations. So nice, perfect kitchen, white kitchen, totally renovated. Flooring has been done, pot lights, lots of cabinet space. Okay, we don't have to go through every single photo, but you get the idea. So for 1.3, 1.33, either the typical 80s house, but not like fully renovated, or the 70s house, but renovated and with the suite. And in a nicer neighborhood, or just slightly more. This is a very good deal. Whoever got it. So slightly smaller lot size. Same 70s built BC box, 24, slightly bigger house. But this one sold for 1.35, slightly more than the previous ones. But this one has 3 kitchens, so it has 2 mortgage helpers. Of course, both unauthorized, but perfect to rent out both the basements and live upstairs. You can always register the suites with the city. It's a bit of a fine, but then you don't have to worry too much. Okay, and perfectly, everything's renovated. Flooring, fireplace, pot lights, chandelier, paint, molding, not molding yet, the baseboards, zebra blinds, everything's new, everything's nice. Okay, no complaints. Of course, the kitchen, this was probably done at some point, so they didn't need the feel to change this to the nice white acrylic cabinets, but it's still nice. It's no complaints. It's, especially with the 2 basement suites, it's 1+1, so you can rent each for like 1,500, so 3,000 total in rent. It covers like at least half of your mortgage amount. So houses like these are perfect. 2 suites under 1.35, perfect. Okay, slightly more expensive. This is also renovated, but the other one sold for like 1.32, 1.33. This is slightly more. Why is it more? Because of the renovations, the quality of renovations. This is actually like a nicer, because of course it depends. You could have a 50,000 renovation, you could have a 100K or plus renovation. This is probably the 6-figure one. Really nice panels. Of course, everything, there's many variables. Even the panels could be MDF cheap ones, or the plastic ones, or the pine wood, like nicer actual wood ones. It depends again, but this is actually really nice quality renovations. So acrylic cabinets, quartz counters, all the tar oven, nice appliances, perfect, nicer kind of renovation. Okay, again, no complaints, like perfect, just okay. And this is for 1.37 times, so a little under 1.4, you can get a nice, very nice renovation, nice house. But of course, still 70s. You cannot get like 90s or like a 2000s built, like fully renovated house. Right? Okay, so similar price, just a little more, 1.385. A 2018 built house, 3-story house in like nice Fraser Heights. Why in the world would this sell for like I mean, it's not cheap, but still relatively cheaper compared to all the other houses. Well, let's take a look. Nice, perfect kitchen, really all perfect cabin. There's a security system. Okay, with this a wok kitchen, a spice kitchen as well. Just again, no complaints. Like as perfect as it gets for a house. Of course, the lot size is smaller, but even the smaller lot size doesn't matter. It's 2018 built. But the reason it's cheap is because of the location, the main important thing. So this is Highway 1. It's literally backing onto the highway. So try to avoid buying, houses which are literally touching or backing onto the highways, but if you get an amazing price like this, then no one's judging. It's perfect. Kudos to you. I wish I could buy this house at this price now. This is probably worth more now. Okay, so 1.3 is where the typical 80s built houses start. 1.4 is where typical 90s built houses start. So 90s built houses, their curb appeal is much more, than the 80s, and then of course the 70s is like, even lower. This is a nice, 90s built house, bigger. So 1.4 is where the actual bigger homes start, like 2,500, 2,600 square feet. The 1.3 is where like your typical 21, 2,200 square feet, start, and the cheaper ones are like 1,900, 1,800 square feet. Okay, perfect 90s built house. Looks like it is original kitchen, but again, if it's 90s, it's it's very livable. You don't have to upgrade anything for the next couple, like maybe 10 years or so. Okay, and this one again does not have a suite, so this is probably for someone who has money, who wants to live in a nice area like Fleetwood. But again, it's on the cheaper end because of 168. This is a busier street. That's why it's on the cheaper end. Usually houses like these sell for like 1.475 plus. Okay, and one thing to keep in mind for 90s built houses, as you can see, so renovations is important, especially plumbing. 90s built houses are known to have poly B piping in it. Google poly B. This will be too long of a video if I start talking about poly B, but poly B is known to burst and then cause a lot of flood damage to the house. Insurance companies don't even insure houses, a lot of houses with the poly B plumbing. So if possible, look under the sinks. If it's a gray, a dark gray pipe, it's probably poly B, and then if possible, avoid, or at least know it's going to cost you some money if it starts flooding in the future. And it's mostly specifically for 90s built houses. 80s built don't really have it. 2000s, I think in 2001 or 2, there was like a ban on poly B federally. Okay, and this is again from 90s. We jump back to 80s, but it's more expensive. Smaller house. Why is it more expensive? Because of the lot size. Bigger 11,000 square foot. This is perfect if you can get a hold of an 11,000 square foot lot. You can't really go wrong long term. Because future development, land is where the money is at, but it's on the cheaper end. Why would such a big lot sell for 1.42 when standard 11,000 square foot lots they usually sell for 1.6 to 1.65? Is the lot shape. So it's a pie-shaped cul-de-sac lot. So it's again usable, flat, barely any trees. Very usable flat lot, but it's just very smaller frontage, and you can't really subdivide it. You can't really build townhouses on a pie-shaped lot. So that's why it's on the cheaper end. But again, still nice. If you have the option to buying a pie-shaped 11,000 versus a rectangular 6,000, of course pick the pie-shaped because it's nicer to live. Have a bigger yard for the kids and the pets. Okay, so we're getting again back to the smaller 3,000 square foot tiny lot, but this is 2015 built and on like a nicer normal Sylvan neighborhood, but it's on a busier street, so that's why it's not super expensive. Because 2015 built houses could get really expensive, and so typical starter 3-level home is usually 2,800 square feet. Then that's your RF9, RF10 lots, which are nowadays R5. Or the next upgrade is R4 lots, which are typically 3,600 square feet houses, and then is your standard R3, zoning, which is like 5,500 square feet house. So it depends on the zoning, depends on the lots, the frontage, the lot size. house size could be very different. So 1.435, again, your typical nicer 2015 built house, no complaints, kind of technically still under warranty. Again, perfect, and house size is okay, but nice, perfect. I would love to live here. Okay, so now 1.445, even more expensive, but like literally a 50s house. Why is it so expensive? Well, the lot size, but it's not that big. Like it's big, it's nice, but why is it 1.45? Because of this thing. Okay, so it has a back lane. So back lane, again, now you can build a fourplex as long as the frontage is big enough. Usually 60 foot would be okay, and this is big enough. So 8,000, you can probably build four plexes of around 2,100 square feet each. You can sell those for like 1.2, 1.25 all day long, and it's literally a 6-figure or technically close to 7-figure profit potential. Of course, it takes a lot of money to make them. Could be a couple of years, but if you can buy now, this is the time, because making a detached house is like 1 to 300k profit. Duplex maybe like 2, 3, 400k, but at houseplex you could literally make $1 million. Again, many variables, depends, many factors involved. It takes a lot of money, but if you can, this is the right move. But again, you'd have to also live. If you're not an investor, if you're buying to live, you have to live in a 50s house, or you could just literally rent it out and just live anywhere, anywhere nicer. Okay, this again, same price, similar size, 2-story house. Does have a suite, but again, sold for so expensive. The 70s house, why would it sell for expensive? It's not, it's just original, nothing nice. But this one also has a back lane. Okay. And just FYI, so this is 124. This is this is 120 squatter. This is 128. If it's within 800 meters of these bus stops, or even here, it could be even developed into a 6-plex, not just a 4-plex. So your houseplex plus 2 garden suites. This one's probably not, because it has to be like 126, 128, 132, and then here 118, 120, 122. So like here, most of these lots are 6-plex lots, but again, has to have a backline. Okay. So again, 1.465, we're getting, like slightly bigger 2,900 square foot houses, nice, really nice curb appeal, really nice, tall pillars, 2006 built, 3,400. So again, this is where you can, spend 1.45 plus and get a nice house, but a small lot, or get a big lot, but an okay house. Okay, so 1.5 is where the 90s built houses start. On standard lots, 7,200 square feet, bigger 3,000 square feet. So remember this: 1.5, 90s, 7,200, 3,000. This is the your benchmark. Again, the house, usually 90s built houses are nice. And again, 3,000 square feet is like perfect. No family pretty much needs more than 3,000. The bedroom size for 3,000 square feet houses are pretty nice. Okay. Okay, and then 1.515. Why would a 60s built, okayish looking house sell for such a huge price? Of course, the lot size, 10,000 square feet, 70-foot frontage, and a back lane. So this is as close as it gets to a nice development potential lot. Again, not every large lot is development potential, because if you remember, we saw the 11,000 square foot lot that did not really have any development potential because it was a pie-shaped lot. But this is a slightly small, 10,000, but it has perfect 6-plex or technically 4-plex, depending on if it is in the. It's probably not, because 128 and then 130. It might. Well, probably not. 130 is where it stops. Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, finally, again, this I'm just we're talking about all the houses under 1.5, but this is just one little bonus: 1.4547. But 7,090 is 3,400. So this is the more, of course, the more money you pay, the bigger the house it gets. But these are called mega houses. So very famous in Surrey, 90s built houses with this clay tiles. Roofing. And then, you know, most of these houses have, not most, but a lot of these houses have 2 suites, and some even have 3 suites, and then plus a garage. So these houses are very popular, in demand, because of the suites and because they're big and standard size. So yeah. And okay, that's were all the houses for now. And then just a couple more things. So of course, you have to make sure the house, you know, if it has a development potential, you'll make more money if you hold it for long term. But if you want your lifestyle to be better for the next 3 years, doesn't really matter the lot size, whatever, because why would you live in an old house if you can live in a 2000s built house for the same price? But again, this is only for if you're not going to hold the house for long time. If you're holding it for 10, 20 years, bigger lot is where the money is at. Of course, any easements, right of ways, how do you check? Let's say every city has GIS system. So for Vancouver, it's called maps.vancouver.ca. So you look at, of course, the Pitt. These are Pitt neighborhoods. So you know, could be 100K more expensive to build because you have to put piles in. So especially like Night 41st, this is a very common because there's a lot of houses sell here, and a lot of people don't even know that this is in a peat bog neighborhood. And then of course you can, you know, put easements here. And some of these houses, it's maybe a little hard to find which house is easement. Okay, here. Okay, this is an easement. Of course, could be, you know, drainage right of way or whatever, like a, you know, city sewer. But you know, you can't really build anything here. Like a 3 foot wide, it's not a huge problem, but it shouldn't be like, you know, like right in the middle. So this is Vancouver. If you want City of Surrey, this is Cosmos. So City of Surrey mapping system. So it doesn't matter which house you look at. So this is a right of way. So if you click here, so it will highlight the, okay, this is entire right of way. This is probably like a power line or a creek or whatever. This lot, like literally like 40% of lot is covered with the, you know, this easement. They can't build anything now in the future. Try to avoid lots, you know, which have such a big easement. Unless, you know, you're getting it at steal of a price, then it doesn't really matter. Oh, this is a gas easement. Okay, that was all. Try to make it as quick as possible. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. My name is Khush. I'm a local realtor from Vancouver to Surrey, Chilliwack, all the neighborhoods. And my number is 778-697-6477. Have a great day. Bye.